Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Lifeonaire Show. I'm your host, Jason Wojo. On the Lifeonaire Show, we help people make more, work less, and live awesome lives by creating lives and businesses they love. I am joined by my, as always, reliable, rock steady co-host, Polish Peter. What's up, dude?
Thank you. Do there any words coming with this?
Yes. Transcripts are at the back.
Transcripts are on the back table. So listen, it's interesting that you just mentioned this catchphrase, right? Make more, work less, and live that awesome life, because I think that is exactly what this episode is about.
Yeah. We're going to talk with, well, we're not talking. Steve Cook, the founder of Lifeonaire, is doing an interview with Glenn Williams. And I've known Glenn since, 2009. And it's been awesome to see the transformation that has occurred in his business and in his personal life. And in this episode in particular, we're getting into both of those. And, living by a different set of standards, really, and how you can apply this to your life is going to be something you're going to want to listen to.
Right. So I love the fact that we were able to bring this episode to you, because it opens up the curtain a little bit for what typically happens in life, in couples, in marriages, in businesses, because I want you guys to look at it from two different perspectives as you're listening to this episode. One is what the perceived life looks like, and what really is happening behind the closed doors kind of a thing. Because when you start looking from that perspective, all of a sudden you start dealing with the real things that need to be dealt with. And that's when the work less, make more, and live the awesome life really starts to show up.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Well, let's go right now to Steve's interview with Glenn Williams.
Hello, this is Steve Cook with Lifeonaire, coming to you with another one of our real life stories. Today, I have a special guest with us. His name is Glenn Williams. Glenn, are you with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Glenn has been part of the Lifeonaire organization as a student and member of a coaching group that I coach now for probably 6, maybe going on 7 years. And so Glenn was around in the early days of Lifeonaire. I think it was called the Secret Sauce event. Were you at that event, Glenn?
Yep, I was at that one. I was one of the attendees to there. I saw the advertisement about it and thought it fit with what I needed to hear at the time. So I came out, got involved there, and it's been a blessing.
And, today, one of the things that we're going to really focus on with today's podcast is where you are today. And you are living what you refer to as a location-independent lifestyle. And that doesn't need much explanation. I think when people hear that, it sort of piques their interest. Location-independent lifestyle. And you are really focused on trying to share what it takes to live such a lifestyle with others and helping other people to achieve that. But before we get too deep into that and what you are doing today, can you maybe share with everybody where you were at the first time you came to a Lifeonaire event and what the early years were like in the program for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I can do that. When I first heard about Steve Cook as a real estate investor. I was trying to do some real estate investing. I was trying to get more of my business up off the ground, and I had held rentals for a decade before, but I had a challenge with one deal that went poorly for me, and then I kind of was gun shy. And I'm just going off and figuring out why I'm having such challenges when I had successes before, and all of a sudden I wasn't mentally ready or prepared or just really doing what I needed to do, I thought, to have the success I needed. I saw the advertisement for the Secret Sauce event, and it talked about kind of the why, kind of what drives you, kind of what's important about really in your life that kind of helps you to do the things that you need to do in order to live that kind of a life. So I came out to that event, and it started to make a big difference for me right away there.
Would it be fair to say that many people who saw you at that time and just the life that you and your wife had, with the rentals and your own business, and I think you still had a job at that time, would people have looked at you and thought you and your wife were doing pretty good? You guys were pretty well off and successful?
Yeah, people on the outside would see things and see that we seem to be doing pretty well. We seem to be having a pretty good life. We seem to be really happy. But I mean, I knew we had challenges that people didn't see. I mean, whether it was the businesses not doing what we expected them or what we really wanted them to do. Our relationship was strained because, I mean, there were things that I needed to improve for myself to be a far better husband. So those were things that people on the outside just didn't see, but I knew I had to improve them. And just going to the first event, I didn't do that. But I mean, I started to make much more progress over time as part of the Titanium coaching program and part of that mastermind group of folks who are far more successful and smarter than I am to help lift me up. And
so, I mean, I've already sort of touched upon it a little bit, this location-independent living, and we will get deeper into that. But was that even remotely a possibility 5 or 6 years ago? Could you have even considered a location-independent lifestyle at that time?
Not at all. I mean, it's not something that was even able to cross my mind at the time. I wasn't open to the concept of being able to do it. And just as I grew and learned and realized kind of how I could structure some of my affairs, whether they're affairs at home, whether they're my bills, whether it's getting more conservative, more frugal, whether it's improving the systems within my business so I don't have to be there all the time. It's just I wasn't aware of a lot of the things that could happen or that this could be a possibility, a legitimate possibility. It's something that was interesting. It piqued our interest, but it wasn't a part of our core vision at the time until we started to get away a little bit more and realize, hey, we want to do more of this.
And so you were, I guess, to a certain degree, dismissing even dreaming about that because you didn't even think it was possible.
I didn't think it was possible. Didn't see it out there. I didn't see other people out there doing it yet. I didn't see a lot of people doing that type of thing that I could look to and say, hey, here's someone who's doing it. Well, maybe this is a possibility. It's just like I wasn't exposed to the idea of it. Therefore, I mean, it wasn't really on my radar until I started to see that, wow, okay, this is something that could be potentially done. So once I got that idea, we started to kind of pursue that a little more.
Cool. So you had one of the most compelling stories as it pertains to your marriage. And I share your story almost every single time I speak. I don't even know if you're aware of that, but your testimonial and how your marriage was turned around is something that inspires many people. And could you just maybe tell us just a little bit of, where things were, how things were, but what was it that prompted the change, and what was it that sort of brought into your life, or what kind of actions did you take that really improved your marriage?
Absolutely. The challenge we had was, I mean, it's a challenge that I'm sure a lot of people have, is you just getting caught too much in the day-to-day activities of your life. You're just kind of going along. You take people for granted. You don't have the connection that you once did, and you're not doing the types of things that you really need to do in order to preserve and improve and really enjoy the relationship that you have. Obviously, when you meet someone and you get involved with them and have a relationship with them, there's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of love and everything there at that time. But over time, it just gets to be kind of habit, and you're not taking the actions that you really need to take in order to make that relationship flourish. Well, I didn't realize how unhappy I was about things until I came out to, it wound up being the second Titanium mastermind group event that we had, mastermind retreat, and I got to thinking about really what I wanted to get out of the group, and I was just so unhappy with how things were. And I just laid it all on the table to everyone. And I'm just said, I'm not happy with the relationship. We're not happy together. We had a fantastic relationship before, and things had just changed. And upon advice and counsel from the rest of the group, I changed me. I mean, I became far more attentive. I started to realize that this isn't my wife having challenges. This isn't her doing things. It's what am I doing? What can I change of myself to become a far better husband, to be the husband that she deserves to have, and start taking actions in that direction.
And so you started taking those actions, and so much changed. And I would imagine that if you would not have taken those actions and you approached your wife and said, hey, I want to start doing this location independent living, she might have said, sure, go ahead. I'll see you when you come home. But now today, you guys dream together, and you have come up with this vision of how you want your life to look. And so, I've thrown out the word a number of times, location independent living. Can you explain to all of our listeners what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. Location independent living, it doesn't mean you have to go travel all the time or be away all the time or anything like that. It's just having kind of the concept of having all your affairs in order, whether it's your house, whether it's your housing. I should call it shelter, because it's not even necessarily have to be a house or a home. Having those affairs in order, having your finances in order. I mean, things that have to happen, paying bills. You have to earn money somehow, but you structure things in such a manner that you don't have to be in one place all the time for everything, for the machine to kind of work and be able to run. I mean, you can go elsewhere and be elsewhere and still have everything work. You just have to put things in place and take care of things so that will actually be able to happen that way.
And so, putting all of your affairs in order, once you have them in order, what has that enabled you to do? Can you try to describe just the last couple months of your life?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I just got back home to Minneapolis here 2 days ago, and we were traveling for better part of 6 weeks through the American Southwest, escaping the Minnesota cold winter. My wife Kelly she said, or the previous year, she was saying she didn't want to be here for the winter. Well, so we finally kind of made that reality this winter, getting away for 5 to 6 weeks, and we're putting together plans for next winter, it probably being more along the lines of 3 months to get away to be able to do it.
And so you're making the plans to sit here and get away. What's one of the things, people sit here and probably think, okay, you've taken care of a lot of things, your affairs are taken care of, but is it just all fun and games the whole time you're out? Do you just, spend money the whole time you're away? Or, what is it that you're doing to be able to provide for yourself while you're away? And I'm going to throw out, before you answer, I'm going to throw out one other question. Some people might even think, well, you must just make a whole bunch of money in 6 months and then you can go do whatever you want to do the other 6 months. Or can you give people just some insight into how you have set yourself up to where you're able to do this?
Yeah, that is something that a lot of people do think, is that it's just a matter of people on the outside may say, well, Glenn, Kelly, you guys are just rich. You can do whatever you want. And it's like, it's not like that. When you're living a location independent lifestyle, it doesn't mean that you leave and you're quote unquote on vacation all the time. I mean, there's still work that needs to happen when you're away. You're just doing it in a different location. You're changing your surroundings, but certain things still have to happen. Now, that being said, I don't work 40, 50, 60 hours a week. I mean, I don't do that when I'm here, let alone when I'm on the road. But it's putting the business aspects in place so that my business can continue to run while I'm not here. And I do some of that utilizing just business systems, online systems, virtual assistants, and local business partners who take care of aspects of my businesses while I'm away. So just so all the things can kind of happen and I don't have to be here to do them. Now, I do have to check in and deal with things via the internet or via the cell phone while I'm away, but I mean, I can do that from anywhere around the world. That's not a big deal as long as I've got the important stuff. If something has to happen here, I've got someone here to handle it.
So now is your wife involved in your business?
She was back when we were rehabbing. I mean, she was kind of our design person with the rehabbing business, but for more of the stuff that I'm doing right now with my real estate brokerage, as well as my real estate investing, which is predominantly wholesaling now, I mean, as well as the rentals, she's not really involved in that.
So what is it that she does while you're traveling?
Well, she's a custom jewelry designer. She has her own custom jewelry design line, Western themed cowgirl jewelry line. And on this trip, we went to a couple of shows where she was a vendor at them, selling her designs, as well as while we travel, she has commission work that people give her custom orders on things, and she can work on her computer to do CAD design of things like that. So she's able to do that. And then when she gets back here, she is actually able to create the pieces that she designed and work through with people while she was on the road remotely.
So not only did you figure out a way for you to do your business on the road, but you also figured out a way for her to do her business on the road. And you even incorporated your travels into some of the shows that she's doing.
Yep, absolutely. And this was kind of our first, the last couple months was our first big run and big attempt at this. And I mean, we've still got some things to figure out and improve on, and just tweaks to make to how we've got things set up and improve going forward. But I mean, we wouldn't have known the things and the challenges that we had until we did this the first time. So it's going to make it better going forward based off of what we've learned the past couple months.
That's awesome. And I know it is your desire, just not for you and Kelly to be able to live and experience this, but you want to see others experience it as well. And you have actually set up a website to share your experiences and help others. Isn't that true?
Yep, that is correct.
What is your website address?
The website address is locationindependentliving.com. So that's the blog I put together, and currently I'm posting there a couple times a week. I also have a Facebook group forum that you can access, get the address to there from that website too, where people can come and actively interact with other folks who have interest in this, and I'm on there often. People have questions, people just trying to pick up ideas, thoughts, ways that they might be able to do things like that. I mean, I'm trying to engage in the community and build a group that really wants to do this and learn and help each other, almost some level of a mastermind on folks that really want to do this type of lifestyle. And again, it doesn't mean that you have to be on the road all year long, or 6 months a year, or 3 months a year. It just means you've put your affairs in order so that you could, if you chose to.
So that you could come and go as you please.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And obviously, by having that type of a system and organization in place, it'll free up your time. It'll give you more freedom, whether you're in the city you're located right now, or whether you're on the road. You just have more time and freedom to do other different things also by putting these things in place.
Now, Glenn, I'm going to bring up something here that I'm sure you're going to be able to help people with. There are going to be people who are listening to this right now, and they're going to sit here, and I know what's going through their mind. They're thinking, oh, no, I could never do that. And, one thing with your affairs being in order the way they are now, that if an opportunity came up and you guys could go somewhere in 2 weeks, you can do that now. But I want to just rewind 6 years ago. If somebody would have said, Glenn, we got this awesome trip that you could go on. We're leaving we got to pack our bags, within 2 weeks, we're going to be over here in this place, and we're going to go, and we're going to be there for 2 months. That would have, I don't know a better way to describe it other than say that would have freaked you out. And you were just not that kind of person. And you had to have everything planned out. You are not a spontaneous person at all. What would you say to the person who is thinking that way? And, what's your thought processes today?
Yeah, and I agree with you completely. I have shifted mindset completely. I used to have the mindset and mentality that certainty was very, very, very important to me. I mean, I'm embracing significantly more uncertainty now, just the way everything is happening in my life. It's kind of become more fun, and I'm less tied to the societal view of the way your life is supposed to be. I mean, we talk all the time about what's society's vision for your life, and society's vision for your life is you live in one spot and you go to work and you get your paycheck every 2 weeks, and you're just kind of within this box that society says you have to live in. Well, I mean, Lifeonaire breaks a whole bunch of that down anyway. So just time through that and seeing people do other things and being exposed to people with different ideas and things like that starts to open your mind, and you start to realize that, no, I could do these things, and I want to live my vision for my life. I don't want to live society's vision for my life. I want the freedom and the ability to do these types of things. So, I mean, over time, you really start to truly embrace the basis of Lifeonaire, which is, what's the vision that you have for your life? What do you really, really want your life to look like? And most people, the vision for their life is not what society says they're supposed to do. They'd like to do other things. I mean, they'd like to go off and say, I'm going to travel around the U.S. for a few months, or I'm going to travel overseas and live someplace else for a month or two. But they just can't wrap their head around it because it's so different. And it takes some time to grow into that. But I mean, their eyes haven't been open to that as a possibility as far as how they might be able to do something. Their mind is too programmed into I can or I can't. It should be more of a matter of, okay, this is what I want to do. How can I do this? And really being able to put together the plan and start to do it.
So really, to just sum up what you just said, you bought in hook, line, and sinker to society or the world's vision for your life. You were doing that very well. You were playing that game very well. You were doing the investments. You were working the jobs. You were trying to get ahead, and you were waking up each morning and just wondering, when does this get good? And when you then were first exposed to Lifeonaire, in which we come right out and say it, what the world around us teaches us is a lie. There is this inherent belief that we need to do things a certain way in order to be successful. And the world is telling us what way that needs to be. And through Lifeonaire, we're basically saying, no, you should determine what success means to you. You should decide, what do you want your life to look like, and what does it take to win at this game of life? Stop doing what everybody else says you should be doing and do what you want to do. And that was sort of the decision that you made one day, was I've been doing this and I am tired of playing this other game because it is not producing the rewards or the results that I thought it would. And I'm going to change the rules of my game, and I'm living life on my terms. And that's what you have been doing now for a number of years. Would that be a fair way to sort of sum everything up?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we hadn't gotten quite to the point, obviously, of where we are right now with really taking a big jump and then looking to take even bigger jumps going forward to allow us to do more and more of what we want to do. But absolutely buying in and saying, no, we want to do something else. I mean, we want freedom. We want happiness. We want enjoyment. And I hate to say it, but society's vision for your life doesn't include your happiness. I mean, that's unfortunately the case. And I mean, like you had just said, most people get stuck in that and don't understand why they're not as happy as they thought they should be when they were sold this bogus bill of goods saying all you have to do is do this and you're going to have a great life.
So now we're going to talk a little bit more about you being sort of that planner, the guy who needs to have everything sort of figured out. You want that certainty. You have done much, much better in that area. You've been in, it's 6 years now, I believe, that you have been with the program. And you're at a certain point right now that many people would think it's almost impossible to get there. But you sort of took your time getting there just because that's your nature. But in the meantime, what I want people to know is that you were starting to take steps all along the way, and you started exploring with traveling more. You used to love traveling, but you stopped, as my understanding, and then you started in again once you started got that vision, with Lifeonaire. Is that true?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And honestly, when looking at it, I traveled a lot, and Kelly and I traveled a lot when we were initially together. And then it's kind of interesting that the biggest challenges we started having with our life and our marriage, I mean, were about the same time that we stopped doing all the traveling too. I mean, we loved the traveling. We loved getting out of the day-to-day grind. And it's the day-to-day grind that kind of wore us down. Well, getting away from that and getting back into starting to travel more and everything like that. I mean, you saw how our relationship changed kind of as we started to do more and more and more of that and took more control of our own happiness by doing what we wanted to do. And I mean, we just got to be much more happy, had a much better relationship, and just enjoyed our life more.
So you got back to doing the things that you once did. And, the irony is this: we find our spouse and while we're courting them and dating them, we're doing all kinds of things. And then we get married and we want to do everything right. And we listen to society, we listen to the world around us, and we start doing all the things that they tell us to do. And it doesn't include keep on doing what you loved about each other. And it doesn't include keep doing the things that you had fun with. Instead, it says, work really hard for the next 30 or 40 years so that you can do the things that you used to do. But all too often we just buy into that lie that that's the path because it is so ingrained in us. So Glenn, what does the next couple of months hold in store for you? I don't think you're coming home for another, at the minimum, month, if not 2 more months. Is that correct?
No. We just got done with our couple months of travel, and we're back at home now to tweak some of our systems, tweak how we're doing things a little bit. But on the drive home, it was actually kind of sad. The night before we started to drive home, I couldn't sleep because I didn't want to come home. We didn't have enough of our affairs in order to allow us to stay out longer. Our initial plan was the 5 to 6 weeks, and we had things in place to allow for that. And now we're coming home. Well, now coming home and we're tweaking things to allow us to be able to do things differently. I mean, what we have in place, I mean, it's not perfect. I mean, we're still growing and learning, and people can come alongside us and learn as we learn too, and kind of improve and know where some holes in our systems and everything were. But we're actually planning on probably a June trip. That's what we're discussing right now, to Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, things like that. Don't know how long it's going to be yet, but I mean, it's going to be several weeks at least, just to get away again. We have some other things, just other things to deal with in the intervening time, but we're planning that next in the fall. We might take another trip away, and then next winter we are planning probably something along the lines of 3 months to get away.
So we're just talking about the next year, and you're talking about 3 or 4 rather lengthy trips in the next year, and you just got home and you're already planning your next trip for about 90 days out.
Yeah, that is correct.
And I think that there's a whole lot of people who never even imagined or dreamed that could take place. And I just want to encourage everyone who is listening. Glenn will tell you the same thing. I'll say the same thing about myself. There's nothing special about us, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in the sense that anyone can do and live and experience this kind of life if it's what you desire to have. And one thing that I am constantly asking people when they sit there and say, I can't do it, I tell them to stop saying I can't and instead say, how can I do it? It's a different question that you start to ask yourself. And when you start to ask yourself, how can I do it? There is always a solution. And there's many, many different ways that you can come up with on how to accomplish these types of things. And so some of you may be wondering, how did Glenn and his wife pull this off? Well, they started asking themselves a different question. And the question was, how can we do it? And, now they've learned lessons. They're coming back, they're back home, and now they're asking, how can we do it better? And they're going to improve some things, and they're going to keep on refining it. Glenn, any final thoughts or any last thing that you may want to share with everybody who's listening?
The first thing is, I mean, I agree with what you said. I mean, there's really nothing special about us and who we are and anything that has enabled us to do this. We've just figured out what we want and started to head in that direction. People need to know what they want out of their life first and foremost, and that's a big Lifeonaire teaching, is they need to know. So, I mean, they need to get clarity on that. The kind of the biggest thing that I'm going to be starting to discuss this and teach this more and more now is how much the stuff that you have is restricting your ability to do things and live the life you want to live. We got back here. I mean, we were on the road living in a camper that's a couple hundred square feet. We got back here to our house, which is a very basic house, but I mean, we've got 1,700 square feet and it's full of stuff. And we got back here and said, we got to get rid of this stuff. And there's too much here. We don't need all of this. Items don't give us benefit, or don't give us joy, don't give us enjoyment, don't give us freedom. I mean, getting rid of some of this stuff will let us do more and more of that. But I mean, it becomes a conscious decision of what you want in your life. And in all honesty, we're looking at the possibility of selling the house and not buying another one. I mean, actually downsizing to that extent. So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to share the story all along with folks and what we learn, what's good, what's not so good, and they can kind of follow along, and maybe it's something that works for them too.
That's cool. So just as a disclaimer for everyone, I just want to sit here and just say that what Glenn is doing is not right and it's not wrong. And the lifestyle that you're currently living might not be right and it might not be wrong. The key is, and through Lifeonaire, is we want you to live and experience the life that you desire to live. So we're not telling everyone that, hey, you should live the way Glenn lives. And we're also not telling you that you should continue to live the way that you currently do. Instead, it really takes time deciding what life you want to live. Stop listening to what others are saying. Stop listening to the voices from your childhood. Stop listening to the voices of the world around you, but to really just get in touch with what do you want. And, I have to applaud Glenn and Kelly. They came up with a vision that is countercultural. It's different than what the people who they surround themselves with on a daily basis, their neighbors, their friends, their family. It's a different lifestyle than what all of them are living, and they're not being influenced by the world around them. They're going after what it is that they want, and they are experiencing an incredible life. And that's what we're all about with Lifeonaire, is helping you to experience the life that you desire to live. And that can look any way that you want it to look. But the key is it needs to be the way you want it to look, not what somebody else thinks it should look like. So, Glenn, I applaud you and Kelly. I think you guys are doing a great job. I am proud of you for getting out there and sharing it with others and wanting to help others do the same thing. So thank you for joining me on this interview.
Thank you for having me, Steve. I very much appreciate it. I mean, I can't imagine really where we would be right now if we hadn't gotten involved with Lifeonaire all those many years ago and really bought in and gotten your guidance and the guidance from the mastermind group. It's made all the difference in the world for us.
Well, it's been great watching the two of you grow and just seeing you experience this life.
Glenn's awesome, man. He is a guy who I've seen incredible things happen. And one of the things I've seen, I think that's responsible for Glenn's growth is he's willing to kind of take a look at how things are really in his life and in his business, and then make an assessment. And from there, take action to improve it. He did this in two areas in particular that we've talked about in this episode, which is his relationship as well as his business. He's pursuing and living a location independent business. And as you talked about, it doesn't mean you're running your business on autopilot from anywhere across the world, although that certainly could be. And that is the vision for some people. And that's totally possible. You're going to set up your business a little bit differently if you want to do that. But Glenn's like, hey, I want to be able to take a trip. And he talks about, going for 6 weeks traveling and doing that. And, I don't know if you remember, we had Eric and Breeze and Tarski, two other students in Lifeonaire, recently took, I think it was almost the whole summer, if I'm correct. And they traveled in the Pacific Northwest and they ran their business remotely. Their business is in Wisconsin. And so it's just something that's very, very common. And there's a strategy behind it. And that's one part of things. And the other part is the relationships, right? Like really looking at things and wanting to step up to the plate to have that fire that they once had and rekindle that passionate relationship as well.
Yeah, but if you look at this particular aspect in this interview, and Steve was talking with him, is you got to be coachable. You got to be open to what people are putting out there, what they're saying and things like that. And I think that's one of the reasons why the mastermind model in Lifeonaire works so well, because when you come into this room, when you have those kinds of conversations and you start seeing and finally start opening up, you know what, maybe I'm not happy. Have I been kind of telling myself this lie kind of a thing, and you start getting real with yourself? That's when you can start making changes. And
it could be because you're telling yourself a lie, but I think it can also be because you're too busy to pay attention and you don't really realize it. You kind of, until you really take the time to really think about like what it is you want, what are your own desires for every part of your life, really. Like, let's just expand this beyond relationships and business. Like, you need to know what every part of your life ideally looks like. And then, by the way, that's a small plug here. That's what we do at the Get a Life Getaways. We help people discover that for themselves instead of just going along with the flow, like what society says we're supposed to do or what other people want for us. And so having that ability and then having a plan and the strategy to achieve it is something that's really powerful.
Right. I agree with that, because if you think about it, what's shown right in life, what people are putting out there, what they're projecting, is a lot of times is not what's really happening behind the curtain. And one big takeaway I forgot from this particular episode is the whole idea of judgment, right? You can't judge book by the cover. And we've had, this expression has been, I got this expression right, didn't I? Can't judge book by the cover.
Yes.
Right?
The
Okay, good.
translation worked on that one. Good job.
Translation worked. Okay. I just got corrected by my kids a couple of days ago about one of the other expressions that I use, and he's like,
is it like you can't judge a sheep by like its tail or something like that?
No, it's a donkey, not a sheep. It's a donkey.
Okay.
No, but think about it this way. When you start looking from that perspective, like everybody's got something going on in their life, right? You all of a sudden it's like, who am I to say what is going on with them and judging them or whatever the case may be, to be able to go and live life. And when you start looking from your own perspective in your own life and you get to the nitty gritty, get to the reality of it, because you are coachable, all of a sudden you are able to start making changes, real changes, because you're dealing with the problem that's underneath the problem, right? Not the surface stuff. And that's what I love about this episode, because Glenn became coachable and started taking actions to be able to go and work on the marriage, work on the business. And now the results are there,
Right. Because I mean, ultimately, for anybody listening right now, like that first step really is to determine what specifically it is you want. But at some point, you also got to get off of that thinking mode and the reflection mode and move into action mode, because nothing happens without that. Like, you can be surrounded with the right information, the right people, have the right tools at your disposal, but eventually you got to take action. This is something we talk about in Lifeonaire as well. Like, your coach can't want your success more than you do. And so this is why the vision helps you, gives you a why, gives you a roadmap as well as a reason, right? It's a roadmap and the reason for the life you want to live. Yep.
Thinking works until it doesn't.
That's it. Awesome, man. Well, hey, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I think there's a lot of lessons in here. I hope you got a lot of nuggets and value out of this. If you like this, please like, share, and subscribe. This helps us cut through the clutter, helps us get to the top of the listening kind of list of so many different distracting things out there. We could help really change some lives for people by listening to the podcast, and you can be part of that mission along with us. So until next time, everybody, we'll see you next week.